Now we will move on to our first technical session, where we will explore adolescence as a window of opportunity. This session will be chaired by Ms. Roli Singh, Chairperson of the National Authority Chemical Weapons Convention, Government of India, and former Additional Secretary, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Ms. Singh has decades of experience shaping public health programs in India, and she brings both a policymaker's vision and a practitioner's pragmatism to this discussion. I'd like to invite Ms. Roli Singh to the stage. I would also like to invite our esteemed speakers. As I call your name, speakers, kindly make your way to the stage and begin taking your seats. Today we will hear from Dr. Zoya Ali Rizvi, Deputy Commissioner, Nutrition and Adolescent Health, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. We'll have Dr. Vandana Prasad, Principal Technical Advisor, Public Health Resource Society. We will have Dr. Francisca Hendi Agung, Associate Professor, Universitas Pelita Harapan, Indonesia. Dr. Ashok Dyalchand, Director, Institute of Health Management, Bachod, India. Ms. Bonita Sharma, Co-founder and CEO, Sochai, Nepal. Ms. Seema Gupta, Lead IPE Global Center for Knowledge and Development, New Delhi. And finally, Mr. Keshav Sahani, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Knowledge, Antara Foundation, New Delhi. As our panelists settle into their seats, I would like to remind them and our attendees that each speaker will have 12 minutes for their presentation. At the 10-minute mark, speakers will hear a bell, which will indicate that you have 2 more minutes to close your presentation. Thank you in advance for helping us keep time to ensure we hear from all of you in equal measure. In addition, when you are presenting your slides, you are welcome to come to the podium. We'll have this little tool here that will help you to advance your slides. Green will make it go forward, and red will make it go back. You can also use the computer arrows as well, as you all know.
Does that work from sitting at the table?
Yeah, it'll work. All right, thank you. Ms. Roli Singh, the stage is now yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to, first of all, thank Sukarya for inviting me for the 3rd international conference that they are doing on health and nutrition with focus on adolescent health and the cohort of adolescents, which is, as we all know, one of the largest in the country. As of now, as we speak, in the world, India has one of the largest populations of adolescents, approximately 25 crores of the population is of adolescents. And this is an area which somehow tends to fall through the cracks, because with the focus on IMR and MMR, somewhere we forget that this is that link which would probably address the issues that we try to address when once a woman is married or when she's pregnant. If we start addressing these challenges at the time when she's an adolescent, and similarly for adolescent boys who go through a lot of changes in their life emotionally and physically at that age, if we address issues at that age, probably we're creating a healthier, a more balanced society and a more productive society for the future. So without wasting time, since we have a very esteemed panel of speakers sitting here, we would straight away dive into the technical sessions. I would first of all like to invite Ms. Zoya. She is currently Deputy Commissioner, Nutrition and Adolescent Health in the Ministry of Health, NHM. She has been a very dear colleague and a very knowledgeable one too. And she would give us an insight on the success stories and challenges in adolescent health. Zoya, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. So I would like to first begin by saying that as a country, I think India is one of the first countries to have implemented a dedicated adolescent health program, which is targeting the children in school, out of school, rural, urban, married, unmarried. So that was one conscious decision taken by the government to have a dedicated program. Just to set a context, we know that if you look at the data regarding what the status of adolescent health in India is, so there has been huge improvements. We have managed to decrease the teenage pregnancies, early marriages. The use of hygienic methods has really improved over the between the last two National Family Health Surveys. We are still struggling with anemia. As you can see, the data kind of stays quite stagnant. And we also are struggling with both in malnutrition, both in the terms of over as well as undernutrition. So the brief look at the data. Next set of data, I think we also have another challenge is the substance misuse. This is a global youth tobacco survey which was done in about 96,000 schools across all the states, which shows that about 8.5% of children aged 13 to 15, class 6 to 8 are current tobacco users. This is a big cause for concern for a country as large as ours. Besides this, we are also coming up with the new higher incidence of non-communicable diseases in the 15 to 19-year-old adolescents, whether it is hypertension, pre-diabetes, obesity, or even incidence of asthma and cancer. Besides, other theme which we are worried about is the exposure to violence. And this is something which is a cause for us to worry because we are, in the national surveys, we are covering data for only married adolescents, 18 to 19. And this also shows, if you look at the data, that a huge percentage of them actually face violence from their intimate partners. So whether it is physical violence, sexual violence, or physical and sexual violence. So this is a cause for worry for us. And finally, mental health, which is something which came up in a big way, especially post-COVID. So even if you look at the data, which is pre-COVID also, which shows us that the prevalence of mental health disorders in adolescents, this is about 7.5%. And this is for both genders, and rural, urban is almost same. But the incidence of suicides, within the entire number of suicides, about 7.5% is of adolescents, young people who are less than 18. So these are main thematic areas, main themes on which we are working on within the government. So just to say, we have two main programs for adolescent health. One is the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram. Like I mentioned, it was started in 2014, looking at adolescents across board. And the second one, which we realized, coming from what Ms. Kanta Singh mentioned just a short while back, is the importance of schools. So if we use the schools as a platform where the teachers trained will interact with children who spend about 7 to 8 hours in school, this is going to yield us huge benefits. And this also is a very strong partnership between health and education. These are the 6 main key priority areas, like I mentioned earlier. So the various indicators are covered within these 6 priority areas which we are working on. So within the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, let me just quickly tell you, one is the adolescent-friendly health centers, which are at various levels of our health institutions, which are manned by trained manpower, whether it is medical officer, A&M, or counselors, and these are easy-to-reach facilities where the adolescents are provided non-judgmental, empathetic, and simple care, information, counseling, as well as commodities as to what they need. Second, within the iron, we talked about anemia, so we do. Sorry.
None of us can see you.
Okay.
So, and all of them are short, so I can just put it. Sorry to
Okay, okay, so my time is stalled. don't add on this time. Okay, so the clock has been paused. Achha, okay. I should be taller. Oh, okay. ये सबके लिए ठीक है. It can take my weight. Crash तो नहीं हो जाएगा. Crash तो नहीं हो जाएगा. It can. That will be most embarrassing. Me talking about NCTs. Oh my God, this is like so tall. This बहुत अजीब है. Okay. I think I should be heard more than seen. Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much. So my clock can restart. So we're talking about adolescent-friendly health services, which I mentioned. Second is about the prophylactic supplementation of IFA, because knowing that anemia is a public health issue in adolescent health, an entire program is implemented for school going as well as out of school, in which weekly iron folic acid supplementation is given to all these young children. Third, we also have the menstrual hygiene scheme, because as a country we realize that to support girls to continue schooling, to have access to playgrounds, to continue the routine life, they have to have access to safe menstrual hygiene products. And that is what menstrual hygiene scheme is all about. Next, about the peer education program, also this, I think, all of us realize that young kids do listen to their own peers than anybody else. So this program is something which looks at sustained peer education on the main key thematic areas of adolescent health, and how this program works in a long way in increasing awareness on adolescent health, to destigmatize what adolescent health is, and also make it a part of conversation in the community within peer education. And finally, we have the hugely successful Adolescent Health and Wellness Days. So these are activities which happen in schools, out school, in Panchayat Ghar, in Anganwadis, which talk about adolescent health. So this is a very interesting and a very new thing which was done, because the conversation around adolescent health should start everywhere. Let us not wait for them to fall ill and reach out for help, but let's start the conversation, whether it is anemia, whether it is child marriage, whether it is menstrual hygiene, whether it is mental health. Everything is a part of adolescent health days, and these are very state specific also. So that gives the freedom to the states to have these days based on whatever is important for them. So that is the beauty of this intervention. Finally, the school health and wellness, which was addressed initially, is, of course, this is training of 2 teachers per school as health and wellness ambassadors. And these teachers are holding sessions, regular sessions, weekly, twice a month in schools. And this has again started the conversation within schools on how important health is. And I think the beauty of this program is the complete co-ownership between health and education. The entire curriculum was made in partnership with education. Both the secretary said we have signed an MOU with the tribal ministry also. So this is something which is a very strong intervention, and this has shown very good results also. I will share in the coming slides. These are the 11 themes, just to show that within the 11 themes which education had chosen, majority of them are actually health, and these are really very pertinent themes which were decided. Just adding on to how important adolescent health is, you all may be aware about the clarion call given by the Honorable Prime Minister about 10% less. Most of you must be aware about how you decrease the use of oil, decrease the use of sugar. So this kind of advisories have been shared with all the states to be displayed in schools about what are the various, it's not just decreasing oil and sugar, but what are the options. In case you've been having one kind of high salt, high fat food, what is the other option which is far better and locally available also. So this is a big push which we are, as a country, are doing for young children to prevent the early onset of, in fact, non-communicable diseases. This is just a brief about how it is being supported in all the states. Boards, which I mentioned, have been put out across. There have been increased data collection in regular checkups about those children who are in need of support to prevent onset of NCDs. So how far have we reached? So this is just a quick snapshot of where the program is as of now. If we look at the adolescent-friendly health centers, we have about 1.7 crore adolescents access services. So that is a huge jump for us. And in fact, happy to share that out of this 1.7 crore, 90 lakh were girls. So this comes a big way that girls feel safe in reaching out to the adolescent centers to discuss their issues, reach out for help. That is one thing which has really happened really well. Second, if I look at the peer education program, which I mentioned, we have about 3.84 lakh peer educators across. So just a quick number that this program was initially launched in 2017-18. So since then, we've been selecting peer educators every year. They are trained, they hold sessions, and then every 1 or 2 years they leave and they go, and we have to kind of select and train new set. So over all these years, we have selected more than 10 lakh. And right now we have about 3.84. So it's a big army of well-informed, trained young people who, even though they are not peer educators, will be well-informed youth. So that was the target of creating peer educators, because once trained, they go with the knowledge as even when they grow older. In the iron supplementation, we are covering about 6.3 crore adolescents going to school, boys, girls. That's very important. Of course, out of school girls also. In menstrual hygiene, 58 lakh, approximately 55.6 lakh adolescent girls get sanitary napkins every month through schemes which are funded by the national government or state governments. And this is something which is increasing every year for us. So this is a big boon. In the school health and wellness program, it has been hugely successful. We have implemented this program in 35 out of 36 states as of now. We have reached 29 districts. We have trained 11.49 lakh teachers, oriented about 5 lakh principals, and almost more than 9 crore children have attended the school health and wellness sessions. So this for us is a big boost, because that is the ownership which we have received from education, and that is the importance which education has given us. And this partnership can only grow stronger in times to come. Now I come to the tough part, the challenges, which I think Ms. Kanti Singh already mentioned. So there are a few very important challenges for us. First, of course, is the burden of under and overnutrition. Like I mentioned, so we are struggling with not just anemia, undernutrition on one side, but on overnutrition and overweight on the other side. So whatever our interventions are, have to target both the ends of the spectrum of nutrition. Second, we are also looking at mental health disorders. And of course, the good thing is that the awareness has really increased. So those interventions for mental health are something which we are, I think, stressing on, increasing the field level workers who are aware on mental health. Next, impact of technology, which was talked in the initial part, is in setting the context, how important technology, excessive screen time, social media use, abuse is contributing a lot, not just to mental health, but even time saving of these young people. Sexual reproductive health, yes, it does continue. Early teenage marriage, early pregnancies are something which a few states are still struggling with, even though we have reached our TFR and we've got things under control, but yes, some few states need that support continuously. And finally, violence and injuries, which we talked about. Cyberbullying is a part of digital violence, and of course accidents continue to be one of the main reasons for mortality and morbidity in adolescents, and intentional bullying in schools, out of school. So these are all upcoming and newer issues which the adolescents are facing, and we are coming to know of this information. So, and of course, we continue to, besides the data, we also have policy challenges. Quickly, we don't have age desegregated data for younger adolescents. Policymakers often feel, why should we invest in adolescents who are seemingly healthy population? Because any intervention in adolescents will take years to take effect. So that ownership has to be there within that. So finally, I come to my last slide. So what is the way forward? This is nice, but this has a lot of work done behind this. So, of course, we need to strengthen convergence. I mentioned about education. So the convergence, not just with education, with women and child development, with legal affairs, with youth affairs, with skilling. So everything, because youth, adolescent programs are across board so many ministries. So that is the first thing. Second is we have to monitor and provide supportive supervision for whatever intervention it is. Without monitoring, things really don't get done. Third is, of course, to remove the stigma associated with adolescent health. It is okay to reach out for help. It's okay to reach out again and again for help. That is very important. Next is we have to ensure HR availability for all our interventions, whether it is schools, whether it is our adolescent-friendly clinics, everywhere. So HR who's there should be trained. So let us not look at only HR, but trained HR, because adolescence is a different field game. They have to be handled in a very different way. Of course, we have to have institutionalized, whatever priorities are set by the government, by the intervention program should be institutionalized. Let us not have person-driven agenda, let us have something which is institutionalized for all days to come. And finally, of course, the final main thing is money. We have to have optimum money and continued sustained support for all the interventions, because changes don't come overnight, especially for adolescents. So the funding, the support has to be continuous, and let us be patient. It takes time, but yes, we will have a healthy and well-informed adolescent in times to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoya. That was the bullet speed with which you went through the entire adolescent health program of the ministry. Just goes to show the authority and the depth at which you have delved into this area. And well, we got a sense of the programmatic design and the challenges that are there. And let me assure you, like Zoya said, there are huge challenges, because every aspect of it has a big backstory behind it, and there is a huge subtext. And as she pointed out, HR is critical, trainings are critical, and communication is critical. So now moving on, thank you, Zoya, once again. We move on to the next speaker. It's Dr. Vandana Prasad, Principal Technical Advisor, Public Health Resource Society, PHRS Noida. She would be talking about participatory action with adolescents on health and nutrition. Thank you, Vandana.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm also going to race as Zoya did. And now you must consider this, what I'm talking about, as complement to everything that Zoya has said, because we are in a situation where low-hanging fruit is nearly done with respect to many of the problems that we started off with when many of us were working. You know, I started working in the communities 30 years ago. And so the problems that are left over are very, very dense and much more difficult to get at. And also it's the issue of the so-called last mile, which should really be considered the first mile if you were to invert the whole thing. So what I'm talking about is a process, participatory learning and action, that I feel is essential to cover this ground of the so-called last mile, of the so-called high-hanging fruit, and what really gives sustainability, contextuality, and realness to all the schemes and programs that are absolutely essential for the system to run, but run efficiently. And this participatory learning and action is predicated upon the notion that the people that we are working with are rights holders and they're knowledge bearers, and they really have to be essential and primary in the guiding of all work that goes forward, because it's them for their own selves, and the system is there to basically support and help rather than to be the primary mover. So very quickly, to just move on to, I have a basis of speaking. Most of our work is in tribal areas, and like I said, these are some of the contexts in which all the problems are really concentrated, though there are problems across the board, across class, and across geographies, but I think there are some pockets left in the country that are very, very underreached. So our experiences from some of these programs, a lot of these programs have been very wide, as you can see. So, many states and many districts. There's a whole statewide Tejaswini program, which is World Bank funded in the state of Jharkhand, that taught us a lot. And now we're moving to much deeper experience, because we don't see ourselves as implementers. We ourselves as practitioners who are trying some things to be able to inform practice and policy so that they can be upstream, scaled up, and so on and so forth. So PLA processes are part of that. This was the outreach of the Tejaswini project. Not going to stop here too long, but just look at the numbers. So, and as you can see, they function through clubs. So participatory processes believe that you must work in collectives, as well as we add the notion that we must work at a household level, so that there's a universe and then there's a targeting within the universe. And I think this concept is very important to understand in programming. The programmatic strategies allowed for some financial resources to be, devolved to these clubs and these communities, which I think are very important. We use life skill training with gender as overarching. I think this is very, very critical. We just must not speak of health and nutrition in a utilitarian sense. If we are to move forward, it's got to come from a rights perspective. It's got to come from power differentials. It's got to come from a deeper, more conscientized understanding of health and nutrition itself. And and then within that, technical inputs have to be made on health and nutrition, but starts from gender. Big focus on sports. I see Kantaji is not here anymore. She would have loved to see this slide, but I think it's very important for all the reasons that she mentioned. And so there were clubs. These are all based on decisions taken by the adolescents themselves. So this was a particular library they started on health and nutrition, and they had reading clubs. There was a pad bank to make pads available for children, adolescents who didn't have access to those pads. They started dietary diversity clubs to work on dietary diversity and to work on undernutrition. They started, growing stuff in kitchen gardens together as a collective. And this is very important also from something that Kantaji, said. The building up of self-confidence, presentation skills, articulation, improved mobility, all the things that she spoke about, really, it was very interesting. And reduction in restriction at home on mobility as well. And community mobilization efforts by these young people for their entire community, not just for their own selves. So they worked on promotion of, girl-child education. They worked on female feticide. They worked on child marriages. They worked on dowry, domestic violence. Sorry for the spelling mistakes. It comes from an MIS that was from the community. And major campaigns happened against early marriage, which is something that I'm going to focus a little bit on in the rest of my presentation, because this I see as continuing to be a really big problem. May not be in terms of numbers, but in terms of the denial of human rights and the implications upon the next generation and the child and so on and so forth, and the people themselves, the young women, very, very major still. So big campaigns that the community themselves took on, which I think is very important, because this is the kind of issue, a social issue, that law has limitations in taking action because the law also penalizes the people who are affected. And so many people just deny it, because, how does an Anganwadi worker even take into account that she has early marriages in her system? She probably denies them. We know that date of births are fabricated and so on, because how does she cope with the fact that they exist? They're not supposed to exist in law. So very, very complex kind of problem that we must find solutions for. And I'm just going to use the rest of my time to share some data that's very, very current. It's today's data, Zoyaji, and it really informs a lot of the things that you've been saying. And some of it is very telling. A lot of it is very positive. But look at this. So in our cohort of adolescent girls in deep tribal areas of Malkangiri, 3 blocks, you can see that 9% are married. And out of the 34 married adolescent girls that we had, 29 girls had children. And in the program, we have 2 pregnant girls who are just 14 years old. I mean, isn't this just dramatic and tragic? I just can't get over the tragedy of this. And many, many 15-year-olds and so on. And you can, and there's some data that we're still trying to confirm that 5% of all pregnancies, including all women in this area, which is many, many thousand women, are actually in the adolescent age group. So I think this is very tragic. This is something that we intend to work on very strongly in this area. We start from data, because how do you mobilize communities if you don't have data and if you don't have specifics to talk on? I think the effects of early marriage on education, about 50-50 there, and also effects on health. These are their own responses, and you'll see a lot preferring not to say, which is to do with the fact that there's no, up till now, we have just engaged with them, it's not started. So there is a certain hesitancy to speak of many of these issues. Enrollment in school, you can see, no, I'm not attending any form of education is still at 25%. And the reasons, financial constraints, again, Kantaji spoke of that, and early marriage stands out again. The same 9% shows up again as a reason for dropping out of school. Future aspirations, again, something that was mentioned earlier, they want to continue their education, they want to move ahead. Not very many really want to get married, though some, of course, do. And the support needed to continue this education is very highly financial. Better school facilities and so on. Awareness about contraceptive methods, because they are married and many would be sexually active or not married. Again, you can see that there's a large no here. And that is something that we intend to work on in this participatory way. Awareness about different types of contraceptives. I mean, amongst the yeses, which were only 11, so there was such a high no, there were a very small 11, but at least the 2 married adolescent girls had some awareness of contraception, at least of condoms. Menstrual health and hygiene, lots of people are sitting in the audience also working on it. Again, many of the adolescents had already attained menarche, and a high number were aware of menstruation, but a high number were also not. So the no's are at 20%, which again really is something that we need to be working on. The first person to tell about menstruation is not the ASHA and not coming from the system. I mean, like quite high was the mother, and then many also preferred not to say. Menstrual products, we can see that sanitary pads are becoming much more available than they used to be in the past, and that's something that's very positive. But where are they coming from also? Not necessarily from the public health facility, some from the government schemes, but a lot from private. So there is a cost involved in all of that. Toilet facilities, still really pathetic. This is something that despite, saying that we are ODF and so on and so forth, but this is really still a problem in field areas and really still a particular problem for women. So you can see where are the no's. No toilet is a gray, which is still at 6%. It's still quite high. Food security, good food security. But when you come to diet, that's 74%, that's the yellow. But when you come to dietary diversity, it is much, much, much less. And the thing that follows is really consumption of junk food, the relationship with anemia, with undernutrition, and with obesity very high. The consumption of junk food is major for young babies and children. I mean, complementary food is, biscuits and so on, and then for adolescents. And adolescents is 3 times higher than adults and for young babies and children, the consumption of junk food. So something that really needs to be worked upon. Anemia, very sadly, I mean, considering that the percentages are so high, this is, I think, a dramatic fact also for us, that 51% were not aware about symptoms of anemia, which is high, and really something that shouldn't take too much to alter, but I think this is obviously an area that we need to talk about. Amongst the symptoms that they were aware of, fatigue was the major one. And the percentage of girls aware of causes of anemia were again at 75%. And sources of anemia-related information, again, not high from the health workers, which is what you would expect to be better, so only 10% from the health workers. Screening and diagnosis, again, not high. And diagnosed, a lot were diagnosed, I mean, like only 52% did not have anemia, but the rest didn't know mostly because we're not possibly doing hemoglobins. Counseling was also at much, much lower than we should have expected. So just 24% of girls reported participating in any anemia or nutrition awareness sessions. But 39% had been provided with weekly iron and folic acid supplements, but that's also only 39%, right? So I think there's still a lot of scope to improve the implementation of the anemia program. Gender-based violence, a lot would not want to talk about it, but there are also a lot that said yes. And gender-based violence at home, as well as still in school. So still corporal punishments in school happening. Just my conclusions. I think that there are positive secular trends for sure. However, there are still large percentages requiring interventions, and what interventions? They have to be of the participatory, bottoms-up kind of interventions that supplement, complement the national programs. Early marriage persists and is the largest scourge with most significant and severe implications, also very invisible, and also invisibilized by the fact that we have a law. I don't know the answer to this because we want a law. Dietary diversity and anemia requires much work, and teenage pregnancies follow from early marriages, of course. Need major, immediate and strong interventions at a non-individual level. So I'm not talking about IAC, I'm not talking about BCC, I'm talking about collective action where the system is also held accountable by the same groups, and they also decide collective action for their communities and their own selves. So this is it from me. This is a PLA meeting where you can see a lot of young people sitting around as well as children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vandana Prasad. You beautifully brought out the interlinkages, which I think most of us in this room realize, which emanate from economic deprivation, societal norms, leading to early marriages, loss of agency, loss of educational attainments, which leads to loss of livelihoods, and of course the impact that it has on the status of the child that is born out of an early marriage, and the lack of spacing and all those things, the whole gamut of, and a lot of data, I think, which can be very, very usefully, leveraged and utilized by policymakers. Thank you so much for that intervention and your speech. And I would now move on to the next speaker, Dr. Francesca Handy Agung. She is Associate Professor, Department of Child and Adolescent Health, Faculty of Medicine, University Pelita Harapan, Tangerang, please pardon my pronunciation, from Indonesia. She would be talking about the importance of training and of health professionals and other related professionals, empowering professionals, nurturing the future. Over to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Moderator. And first of all, I would like to thank and deeply appreciate Sukarya for having me here today. It's really an honor for me to be part of this conference. So I'm Francisca from Indonesia. I'm a pediatrician and a lecturer at Universitas Pelita Harapan. So I would love to share the Indonesians' experience in developing education's training and learning platform on adolescents' health in Indonesia. So first of all, I would like to start with these two images. A toddler biting his parents and a group of adolescents smoking. As an adult, maybe it's easier for us to accept and to forgive the toddler's behavior. But for the adolescents, maybe we jump to blaming and judging these adolescents who are smoking instead of asking ourselves what can we do better to protect them from smoking. These two images actually reflect the children's navigating their developmental task appropriate to their age. Adolescents are like planes preparing for takeoff. The work of engine is increased due to puberty and brain development that result in rapid and multidimensional changes. At the same time, they need to face air pressure from parents, from peers, from school, and from their society. And they have to navigate themselves in the weather conditions that are shaped by the policies, regulations, commercial influences, culture, norm, media, and the digital world. So it is not easy to be an adolescent. So let's now take a brief look at puberty and neurodevelopment, these two items that shape adolescence. As we all know, puberty initiated in the brain. It's influenced by many internal and external factors. In the brain, there are at least two big events. The first one is the limbic system maturations that come much faster than prefrontal cortex. The limbic system is the center of our emotions, our creativity, our limbic system maturation is the center for our emotions, for our creativity, for fight and flight, and for a survival instinct, while the prefrontal cortex is the center of reasoning, for logical thinking, and for self-regulations. And the second events that are happening a lot in brain adolescence is the increased effectiveness and capacity of the brain due to synaptic pruning, myelinization, and increased white matter. So this graph illustrates how puberty and neurodevelopment leads to a complex web of biopsychosocial changes that leads to multidimensional risks and opportunities. Steinberg divides adolescence into 3 phases: early, mid, and late adolescence. Puberty marks the early phase of adolescence, while the heightened of risk-taking behavior characterize the middle phase of adolescence, where the biggest gap between prefrontal cortex and the limbic system is happening. And in the late phase of adolescence, adolescents already develop independency and agency, but the brain maturation is still progressing until mid-20s. In this phase of life, many big and life-changing decisions are happening. So there are a lot of pressures and anxiety during this phase. Adolescents' development tasks influence their health and well-being. But despite of the wide range of adolescents' health issues and the significant impact, the access to health information and to good quality of health care are still scarcely available. Most of the adolescents' health issues are behavior related. This graph shows the interconnectedness between biological change, psychological development, and social environmental response in shaping adolescents' behavior in daily life, whether it's eating, activity, sleep, sexual behavior, social and digital relationship. This is a book that I really love, one of my favorite books about adolescence, The Age of Opportunity. It is written by a clinical psychologist who works with adolescents in conflict with the law. So there's one appealing statement in chapter 8. It says that what protects adolescents from risky behavior, whether it's unsafe sex, unhealthy eating, or smoking, or etc., is not the knowledge about the risk or danger that may occur, but rather a sense of being valuable and loved, a sense of self-confidence and self-regulation skill. For this, adolescents need a web of support system: parents, family, school, education system, health and food system, social norm and culture, media and information system, economic security, policy and regulations. Thus, we need to empower adults and professionals working in all of this area. The second Lancet Commission on Adolescents' Health also highlights the global system, that the global systems influence adolescents' health and well-being, including the climate change, planetary health, and global conflict. And these commissions highlights that adults are responsible for all this global system, and it calls for more meaningful youth participation that is still lacking in many areas of development. So let's talk about empowering professionals. This is Indonesia. It's a huge and beautiful archipelago lies in Southeast Asia. It's a home to around 67 million adolescents. Despite of its challenging geographical situations and the number of populations, the education and training on adolescents' health for healthcare providers and also for other related professionals are scarcely available. Our adolescent health service started in 2003. The number has been growing since then, but I think similar in many other parts of the world, we still face significant challenges. One of them is the quality of care, the quality of service, due to inadequate capacity of the health professional due to inadequate training around adolescents. However, in this opportunity, I would like to share one of the good practice from Indonesia in adolescents' health. It's called Adolescent Integrated Health Post. It's a community-based adolescence that emphasize meaningful youth participation. It is showcased in one of the WHO document that can be downloaded in WHO website for your further reference. And back to development of adolescents' health education. So in my university, we try to develop adolescents' health in the core curriculum for all students started in 2016. In 2020, we started to have an elective module that aimed to nurture future leaders in adolescents' health. So we use interactive methods such as movie review, games, role play, field visit, and even we invited foreign expert to work with our students. And last year, actually, we invited an adolescent physician from India to be part of this program. To improve the access of adolescents' health education program to all health professionals across the country, we developed massive open online course in the university learning management system. Up to date, we already have two training, one on behavioral change counseling and another on psychosocial screening training. Next year, we hope to develop a training on sexual and reproductive health for health professionals. And this is how we develop our training. It's quite complicated. It started with needs assessment study, and it took us 2 years to complete the training development. It emphasized active learning methods and engaging activities, so it can improve the excitement of the participants and also the effectiveness of the training. So and it's well structured and evidence based and acceptable by health professionals across the country, including those working in remote areas. Apart from that, Indonesia started its associations, National Association of Adolescent Health. So it was inspired by the World Congress on Adolescent Health that was actually held here in New Delhi in 2017. So it's me sharing my take-home messages from the event. And one of the messages is to form an associations that help professionals across sectors to be more supportive to adolescent health and to adolescent growth and development. And this is our most current project. This is a basic adolescent health online training for intersectoral professional. It is, we got some funding support from Society of Adolescent Health and Medicines. This training target professionals from 5 sectors: health, education, law and regulation, social and culture, and information and mass media. So we also target journalists because journalists play a pivotal role in shaping public opinion. So when they write an event, a news about adolescents, they have to framing into a writing that protective for the adolescents' growth and development and increase the awareness of the community that what happened to these adolescents are actually our problem, our responsibility. So this training provides the foundational understanding of adolescents' growth and development and how we should respond to it. This is a collaborative work between 7 universities and a diverse youth panel to promote sustainability and equity. We also work together with Greenpeace Indonesia, which is affiliated with Greenpeace International, and also an NGO working for people with disability. So 30% of our training material, we provide sign language interpreter. So we hope that this training will be more accessible for all professionals from different sectors with different kind of situations. But this is not yet finished, so we hope to finish this training development by end of this year. So this is a picture of the video recording that just happened 2 weeks ago. And this is my last slide. When the music changes, so must the dance. The growth and development of adolescents is the music that changes. So as an adult and as professionals, let's learn how to do the dance accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Francesca Agung, for bringing this unique experience from Indonesia and how you are trying to tackle this multi-sectoral challenge that is there before us for handling adolescent health. And I think this is a very unique learning that's going to be a big takeaway from this workshop. The next speaker that we are going to have is Dr. Ashok Dayalchand. He is the Director, Institute of Health Management, Pachor, Aurangabad, Maharashtra. He's going to talk about addressing maternal morbidity and mortality through a focused intervention for married adolescent girls. Over to you, Dr. Dayalchand. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon to all of you. And I am going to be making a presentation on focused intervention for married adolescent girls. Why married adolescent girls? Because there are programs for unmarried adolescent girls, there are programs for women. It's the married adolescent girls, really, that are falling between the cracks. So a baseline survey was done with women 20 to 24, and they were asked when they got married. 75% got married before the age of 18 years. The mean age at marriage was 16.76. The young women who got married before 15 years of age was almost 27%. Mean age at first conception was 17.5 years. And the percentage of young women who conceived before 16 years was 31%. We asked them about their SRHR status, and you'll see that a mere 33% received minimum standard antenatal care. But look at the next few rows. The proportion of women who reported antenatal complications, 58%. Postnatal complications, 43%. The women who reported a neonatal complication was 41%, and those who had low birth weight babies was 23%. A mere 11% were using contraceptives to delay first birth and for spacing. So the intervention was very simple. It was 5 discrete components to that intervention. It was implemented by ASHAs that had been recruited by government PHCs. The first intervention was a monthly assessment by ASHAs of health needs, information needs, and morbidity during their household visits. The second one was, during the same visit, they would provide need-specific interpersonal communication based on the need that they had assessed. And this was really the basis for generating demand for services and for changing household-level health-related behaviors. They would sit with the primary health center ANMs and prepare a monthly micro-plan for their villages. The ASHAs would then actively link the married adolescent girls to various levels of health care, starting from village health and nutrition days, to sub-centers, to primary health centers, and to referral centers. The village health and nutrition committees, a very easy protocol was prepared for them, where they would assess whether the assessment by ASHAs of health needs was accurate and complete or not, and whether those who had been identified with needs, whether they had received services or not. The overarching intervention was capacity building of ASHAs and ANMs for the skills that were related to the 5 innovations. This was the research study that was done to find out what the impact of this intervention was. So 12 study sites were compared to 12 control sites. The analysis was through a difference in differences approach. You'll see that the percentage of young women that utilized minimum standard antenatal care increased from 33 to 48%. Control area remained the same. Difference in differences was 16.5%. The reported prevalence of antenatal complications came down from 58% to 49%. It actually increased minimally in the control area. The difference in differences was 10.7%. The reported prevalence of intranatal complications reduced from 48.9% to 34%. Remained more or less the same in the control area. The difference in differences was 12.4%. Reported prevalence of postnatal complications reduced from in the study area from 43 to 32%. Control area actually went up from 48 to 53%. The difference in differences was 15.3%. Prevalence of low birth weight babies reduced from 23% to 13%. Control area remained more or less the same. In fact, it went up a little. Difference in differences was 11.4%. The use of family planning methods, contraceptives, for delaying first birth and for spacing increased from 11% to 27% in the study area and remained more or less the same in the control area. And I would say that this was one of the key interventions which really brought about a change because of delay in first birth. We wanted to know what percentage used contraceptives in a sustained, consistent way over a period of time. And that increased over a period of 12 months. In the study area, it increased from 2.8% to 11%. In the control area, from 4% to 5.8%. And the difference in differences was 6.5%. Now, while this was going on for married adolescent girls, the Ashas were conducting a life skills education of 6 months duration. And this had a huge impact on the percentage of girls getting married before 18 years of age. What impact did it have? The proportion of girls married after age of 18 years increased from 53.7% to 74.8%. The mean age at marriage increased from 17.9 years to 18.6 years. Before I leave the stage, I would like to share with you that this program, which was implemented by Ashas, and there are over 1 million Ashas in this country, it is replicable through the country because the way it was implemented and the individual through whom it was implemented. But the program has now transitioned from an Asha-led program to a peer-led program, which makes it much more organic and integral to the community. And over the next time we meet, I look forward to presenting the impact that the peers have had on their peers in terms of both health, age at marriage, and age at first birth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashok Dayalchand. That was a very interesting, short and sweet presentation. And I think what would be interesting would be to know, and I hope there would be questions on that, as to how you managed to make that, that inroad into the health systems of the state. I mean, what was that mechanism? That would be interesting to know. What were the processes that led you to reach the stage where you could be, dealing with Ashas on that level where you were able to, disseminate and make them work towards the goals and the objectives that you had set out, and how this process exactly panned out in the state. That would be an interesting story to know, I mean, from my perspective at least. So moving on to the next speaker, we would invite Ms. Bonita Sharma, co-founder and CEO, Social Change Makers and Innovators, Kathmandu, Nepal. Ms. Sharma would be talking about challenges to change, youth innovation and leadership.
Hello everyone. As a Nepali person, it's an interesting time for me to come here and share about what young people are doing on the ground, because just recently The Gen Z or the youth have made headlines for bringing down the government within 24 hours and electing our first ever female prime minister of the interim government. And yeah, it's as someone, as a public health activist who started her own organization when I was still a student, it's a wishful thinking that we could solve malnutrition and poor public health problems within 24 hours as well. But nevertheless, I'll be sharing about some initiatives that we're leading on the ground in Nepal through my organization, Social Changemakers and Innovators. Now, before getting into topic, we've seen a lot of data and numbers in the past presentation and also heard a lot of stories from Priya, Sonia. These are the faces behind those numbers. Although the images are AI generated, I tell you, I'm sure you'll relate to their stories. First one is Amber. She likes to doom scroll through social media. She's anxious, stressed out. She's dealing with some mental problems, mental health issues. She likes to order online her unhealthy diet, ultra-processed food. She's at high risk of non-communicable diseases, including other mental health problems. There's Asha, who's suffering from anemia. She had to drop out of school to take care of her sibling. She was already anemic as an adolescent. She was forced to marry early, and now she's 16 and pregnant, eating a plain rice without any other diverse meal. And now she's at the risk of passing the same struggle to the next generation. There's Sanam, 15-year-old Dalit boy from Rautahat in Nepal. He's been living through poverty all these years. He has recently been affected by the flooding in Rautahat due to the climate change. There's high risk of food insecurity. There's also wash issues, and he's dealing with the problem of diarrhea due to cholera. Now, I think all of the presentation before has made it clear that we've missed the second window of opportunity. That's the adolescence phase. And investing in adolescence to address the triple burden gives the triple benefits that we already know about. So as a student, when I started my own organization, I found that there was this mother in a very urban community who didn't know about exclusive breastfeeding. She was a young mother, and she lost her child because she thought giving cashew nut paste to her 2-month-old child would make him well-nourished and healthy. It got stuck in the child's throat, and the kid passed away. And imagine we're living in this world, and children are dying of preventable health problems. So that sort of sparked this change within me and my team, who are working hard back home at this moment. And as a youth that came together voluntarily, initially what we did was we started doing the needs assessment. We started to recognize nutrition from a multi-sectoral lens and aligned our programs with the government's multi-sector nutrition framework in Nepal. We prioritize capacity building of young people. We prioritize user-centric innovations for behavior change. And we raised awareness and community ownership by co-creating the solution with the community. In this world of AI, I think the solution is very simple and very grounded in the community. And I'll be sharing some of the innovations that we've developed. So, of course, there are numerous challenges, but in those challenges, we found opportunities by working together with the community through the human-centered design. We became mindful of the context, culture, and community, and we tried to use color as a universal language to bridge the information gap on health and nutrition. The first bracelet that you see on the extreme left is the New to Beats bracelet. The story that I told you about the mother who lost the child, it's actually the source of inspiration for us to design this bracelet. It's very simple. It's like any other beads that you would wear on your wrist, but it explains about how to feed the child in the first 2 years of life. We've been using this bracelet by engaging young people to deliver counseling service at the local health facility, in schools as well as in the community groups, including the female community health volunteers, which is similar to the ASHA workers in India. So the bracelet explains about dietary diversity, meal frequency, as well as breastfeeding in the first 2 years of life. The second one is the red cycle or period bracelet. See, I said that we try to apply the multi-sectoral lens. So we try to include sexual reproductive health information within our learning packages. So it's a period tracker that explains about fertility window, menstruation, ovulation, and we use this simple bracelet to break that taboo and fill the information gap, because it was easier for us to talk about unintended pregnancy, contraception, and also menstruation, which is a big taboo or stigma in our country still. And the third bracelet is the anti-anemia bracelet. So we also have the weekly iron folic acid supplementation program similar to India, and unfortunately the coverage and compliance is quite low, and we designed this as an advocacy tool to help adolescent girls know that when they are supposed to take the iron supplements and empower them to go and ask, because it's their fundamental right to receive them. And there's also the beads that indicate biannual deworming, again simplifying everything, rooted in the community culture and context where bracelet and bangles wearing is an important part of our culture. And another innovation lens that we applied to this was all this bracelet are designed by a group of marginalized women. So now we're giving them income generation opportunities. We're selling this bracelet to other organizations who want to collaborate with us. We're doing CSR initiatives, and this bracelet ultimately reaches to the women and girls who need it the most. So the whole cycle is developed, designed, and implemented by women. So it's our model for a sustainable impact. Other tools, the sugar board, similar to India, we've been implementing it as well. And we have food journal, nutrition manual that we designed in collaboration with the government, and also several hands-on activities and learnings and games that we've been implementing. The second model that I want to talk about is the core of all of our programs. So we have the tools. So how do we take it to the community? So being a student myself, I know that I didn't have enough volunteering opportunity when I was studying. So we opened that platform for the students. So we collaborate with colleges and universities. There are students in public health, medicine, nursing, pharmacy. So we opened volunteering opportunity. They have to apply and be annually recruited for a year. We provide them trainings. We give them all the tools, and they go out in the community to deliver all the services. So it's sort of like junior community health volunteers model, similar to ASHA, but with more access to technology and information. As the students are also looking for volunteering opportunity, it's a win-win situation for us. And they're mobilized across schools, health facilities, community groups, and digital platforms. And this is the most popular and important platform that we've been doing in the past. It's completely adolescent-led. It focuses both in and out of school girls, and it engages multiple stakeholders like the government, nonprofits, community groups, parents, teachers. So this is what the model looks like to take the multi-sectoral action to the community. So there's government, there's students, there are parents, there are community health volunteers, and we capacitate the adolescent to form school and out-of-school adolescent clubs or groups. And these are some of the glimpses. So we've taken multi-sectoral lens. So here you can see they're doing local food demonstration, they're doing nutrition assessment themselves, and they're doing role play and different methods to deliver important information in a fun way that is attractive for adolescents. So here you can see our 19-year-old volunteer Ripesh is distributing iron folic acid supplements because they were being left behind from the system, from the government. And here another volunteer is leading group sessions. They're doing WASH campaigns. They're doing nutrition assessment to identify malnourished adolescents and children. They're doing canteen inspection. They're holding meetings with the government, local government leaders, mayors, ward chairperson, and they're sensitizing them about what are the priorities, what are the needs that should be included in the annual budget and program. They're also integrating climate and local indigenous food and demonstrating these as a part of their program. So it's basically different sector coming together and delivered through adolescent. And a mixed method quasi-experimental study that we did among 914 adolescents revealed that there was, in the endline survey, there was improvement in consumption of healthy food within the school. There was increased awareness about IFA. There was improved intake of iron folic supplements, and there was also increased awareness about deworming. Our bracelets were quite popular and liked by many, but still there were a lot of systemic challenges that cannot be solved by a single program. So the lesson that we've learned in the past few years of implementation is young people are powerful agents of change. We've only been seen as beneficiaries, but we're not limited to that. We're change makers of present, and if given an supportive environment and access to information and resources, young people can make change happen, and that has been demonstrated by the interventions that we've done. But there's still challenges. We need more evidences, disaggregated data. Especially in Nepal, we only have the national averages. The provincial, municipal data, it's still hard to find. And to design targeted and tailored programs, data is very important. Innovation matters, and we cannot apply blanket approach of programming because young people now with access to technology, they're looking for something new, creative, so why not utilize the social media platforms that we have to reach out to them? Why not utilize the new trends that they like to follow? The Gen Z have shown in the movement against corruption, so I'm sure we can do this in our movement against malnutrition. Digital engagement exists, but it's limited because there's a huge, huge digital divide, so I would also like to acknowledge that. And school is a strategic platform. There is an existing school health program, but again, policy and implementation, there's a huge gap which needs to be filled, and it can only be done through strong, effective monitoring. There's also need to institutionalize youth engagement, integration of intervention across different systems and sectors, linking school programs with parents because kids ultimately go back to home and the environment needs to be supportive over there as well. Prioritize adolescents as a critical window of opportunities. Promote program of integration. So we have WASH and immunization program for mothers. Similar could be done for SRHR nutrition and WASH program. And investing in innovation and technologies that are completely designed and developed by youth is very important because we have a lot of ideas, but we do not have mentorship, financial support, and enabling environment to take that idea out in the community. I would like to thank Sukarya for this big opportunity to be here speaking among the leaders and experts of the sector. Thank you very much. And I would like to leave by saying that young people are not just the future. Don't call us the future. We are the change makers of today, of present, and we're already making things happen. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Bonita Sharma made a wonderful presentation, spoke from her heart, and brought out some very interesting learnings and very clear-cut recommendations from the experiences of Nepal. I think it will go a huge way in enriching the outcomes of this conference as well. Now, I would like to welcome Ms. Seema Gupta. She is lead IP Global Center of Knowledge and Development. She's going to speak about catalyzing systems for adolescent health and well-being, learnings from a convergent approach. She comes with a huge public health background and grassroots experience. Seema.
Thank you so much. I think at the outset, I would like to thank Sukarya for this opportunity. And I think we are very fortunate here. I'm here from Center for Knowledge and Development, and I have colleagues as well, that today I'm getting to speak about a program which actually got its thinking going from the Ministry of Health. Ms. Roli Singh that time was the Additional Secretary, Mission Director, and of course Dr. Zoya, who all of us know that she's so passionate about adolescent health. And I think the thinking of what I'm going to present today really came from there. So I'm really fortunate that today, after about 1.5 years, I'm getting to present here in front of both of them the kind of progress we've made. So I'm going to be focusing on, on a project that is being supported by Gates Foundation, which we are implementing in UP in the districts. And my presentation is Catalyzing Systems for Adolescent Health and Wellbeing, Learnings from a Convergence Approach. So just a short sort of introduction of the organization. IP Global is the parent organization which has more than 27 years of working in the development sector, and Center for Knowledge and Development is the not-for-profit arm which was established in 2013, and we work across various areas including knowledge management, health, nutrition, livelihood, climate change, education, and 21st century skills, and some of our partners there. So because today we are talking of adolescence as a window of opportunity, but I'm going to be talking about, of course, the challenge that we have in hand, and how did we convert that challenge into an opportunity so of course we know that 1 in 4 people in Uttar Pradesh are adolescents. So this is specifically to Uttar Pradesh. We are implementing this project in 3 districts, and of course working very closely with the state NHM, and the opportunity of girls going to school. So I think, where we focused was, of course, there is there are the out of school girls, but there is this huge opportunity where girls are going to school. The gross enrollment rates in these schools have increased substantially over the last 3 years. So there is a stymied adolescent health, all of us would agree. There is a lack of prioritization for adolescent health, whether we talk of service providers, whether it's the ASHA or the ANM, Anganwadi, or whosoever, even the CHO. Adolescent health is that they seem to be healthy, they look healthy. Our priority is maternal and child health, and that's where all the focus is, and I guess even the resources and the funding. There is, of course, the whole challenge of the program convergence. It's totally inadequate. Everybody is operating in silos, whether it is the health, whether it is the WCD or the education. There are excellent government programs. I think Dr. Zoya has already presented that, we have the RKSK, etc. But, they don't meet, and there is a very limited reach to the adolescents themselves. And I think most importantly, we do not hear from adolescents themselves. There is a very, very low adolescent engagement, and we really don't know what do they want. And I think when we started working in UP, I remember the PS saying that, please do hear them. I mean, you do have a design in mind, and I know that this is going to work. But can you first talk to them and understand what is it that they require? And I think that was the approach. So in the middle are the 4 very important, policy frameworks that we have. Dr. Zoya has already talked about them, which is the RKSK, the RBSK, the School Health and Wellness Program, and the mental health programs, which includes the Telemanas helpline. I don't know how many of us know about it. It's a very robust helpline which has excellent counselors on the other end who've been trained by NIMHANS and constantly are being their knowledge is being updated. So there is a helpline, not just for adolescents, but for everyone. And of course, there is a district mental health program. So our design was really to look at this convergence opportunity, that each of this program is looking at the adolescent somewhere. But is that adolescent really feeling healthy, or is the impact on the ground, like we say, the last mile? So I think the opportunity was that all programs were tailored to the adolescents, and that was our common foundation for the convergence. So what we did, I'll just quickly say that, of course, we started working with the RKSK, NHM. So this was totally a program which was in line with the UP National Health Mission. So, the capacities and the strengthening of the whole technical cell, I think something was coming from there. So there was a lot of the information. So we first created a standardized information communication package, which is that every Satya Corner or, the Ayushman Arogya Mandir or the CHC, wherever the adolescents are going to go, or for that matter, the school, they have standardized material. So the same monthly calendar for the School Health and Wellness Program alongside the calendar of the RKSK. So that was the first convergence point, and I think we got a very good ownership from the state there. And this was sent out to all the 75 districts. So while we were really focusing, piloting it in 3 districts, some of the impact actually reached the entire state there. There was a very interesting Mentors Online and online platform which the state NHM RKSK cell initiated, which connected all the adolescent health counselors, RKSK coordinators, the DIC managers, ICTC counselors to one online virtual platform. And this platform, in fact, has got the best practice award from Niti Aayog. It used to connect all these people who are working somewhere in the adolescent health space, never got a chance to get connected, and their skills being upgraded. So every monthly calendar, we got experts to talk to them, and eventually it also became a platform with some kind of review started happening. People were talking about the challenges themselves. Over a period of time, this really worked well, and there was Zoya ma'am also on one of the Mentors Online as speaker on the menstrual hygiene, and we had more than 400 of these people connected across the 75 districts. So a lot of that was happening. I think Kantaji is not here, but she talked about the presence of a counselor. And I think that was in part of her design. And I think Roli Singh always said that, you know, in urban schools, we have counselors for adolescents. Why not we pilot this in schools in the rural areas? Obviously, the needs, etc., are all the same. So what we did was, of course, very difficult because resource intensive to, you know, have a counselor. But what we did was that we collaborated with TIS Simha. We developed a module, comprehensive module on adolescent emotional health and well-being, counseling skills for the adolescent health counselors. And while I speak, we've had a state level master trainers counseling already, and in the 2 districts in Barabanki and in Sonbhadra, which are our districts, currently there are almost 30 all the adolescent health counselors. There are the psychiatric social worker at the Mankaksh, there are teachers, there are people from the state resource group, all getting trained on how they need to enhance their counseling skills. And I think I'm being little more sort of positive here. I think we are going to pitch that to the state, if they can include it in the state PIP, and then kind of it, because we have a module, we have resource people already at the state and some districts. So, you know, if that can be sort of you know, scaled up. Then the whole outreach. So we realized that there is a counselor who's sitting in the adolescent friendly health clinic, but the clinic is in the CHC. How do we make it happen that she starts going to schools? So already there is a calendar where she's supposed to do 8 outreach visits across schools in her area. I think that was a very good sort of impact that we had, that we strengthened her outreach visits. So there is a counselor talking to students saying that here I am, I'm a resource for you by the government in the RKSK program. However, I sit in the CHC, I'm here, I have these skills, please make sure that you can come. And I think that kind of increased the footfall. When she started building on sessions on mental health, they realized, and I have some fantastic examples from the ground, but I think lack of time, I will not go there. So I think that is something that we are attempting to, and trying to make the most of that adolescent health counselor to not sit in the clinic but go out to schools. And of course, the whole understanding of needs, I think Dr. Vandana spoke about the PL approach. I think we did the same, and that has brought in a huge amount of insight. So this was very important. We had to understand which are the connecting touch points for adolescent health facilities within the government system. So we looked at both the health and education. So we have the state NHM, there are RKSK review meetings happening. What is it that we need to strengthen there? Then coming to the district, you know, the chief medical officer with all the RKSK and RBSK, then the whole Mankaksh team, RKSK review meetings taking place at the district. How do we strengthen, how do we bring about real issues which can be discussed and taken on the ground? Then we come down to the block, we have the Satya Kendra, we have the whole community health center, and we have the RBSK team which goes to every school. And then at the block level, the Ayushman Arogya Mandir, and the whole service delivery point of, and of course the platforms that RKSK offers, which is the adolescent friendly clubs in schools, the Kishori Swasth Manch in UP, this is in inter-colleges which bring about almost 2,000 students quarterly talking about nutrition and health, and the adolescent health and friendly days. The education system similarly has, you know, huge point of contacts for adolescent health. We have the block resource center, which is the hub of all the principals coming from the block and getting trained, and that's where the whole WIF system kind of, you know, comes together. So we looked at both the inter-college and the other system, and looking at the BRC, looking at inter-colleges, and looking at schools, and especially the school health and program there. So I think all these touch points we were able to sort of mobilize, motivate, talk, and understand, and not invest too much, but really look at how do we invigorate these systems, and how do these two systems start talking to each other and see the benefit in this. So quickly, I will just take you through the WIFS program as just an example of the convergence that happened. So, you know, there was really no problem of supply of the tablets. They were all there and they were in the CHC. Now, how did we go about it? The problem was the schools and the block resource center would never generate a demand. They would never have, okay, these are the number of girls and boys and this is the amount of WIFs that I want. So we started from looking at streamlining the demand generation. So let the demand come from the schools to the block resource center and go to the medical officer in the CHC who knows, okay, these many schools in my area need this amount, n number of WIFs. Okay, then ensure availability. So then the CHC and the BRC, Block Resource Center is under the education, they started talking to each other and the supplies got kind of coordinated. And then the block pharmacists started coordinating with the district warehouse that I need this much VIFs in my area. We also developed a tech-based Google reporting format system, and we created groups where the school principals were raising the demand per school of VIFs. Then we started looking at monitoring of the IFA availability at school. So what used to happen is in the CHC, or currently the system is that the tablets comes to the community health center. However, there is no system. If there is an RBSK vehicle, it will take it to the block resource center, or else it just keeps lying. So I think that whole system of the medical officer talking to the BSA, which is the Basic Shiksha Adhikari, who's the nodal officer at the district level, and these getting to the block resource center, and from there the principals who come monthly, how do they kind of ensure that they take these supply to school? Even a small step like that made such a huge difference on the availability. And then we started, of course, alongside, what is happening is that we do not make adolescents aware why this VIFS is important. So talking of anemia, doing sessions that if you're fatigued, and if you're feeling tired, or saying that anemia is a common thing amongst young boys and girls, so therefore taking this Neela tablet is so important. So having that kind of also, and generating that demand, and also talking of diet diversity. We also simultaneously looked at the NDD program, and we were looking at HB testing. So finally, just these insights that you can see through the data that our team has collected, how the monthly IFA availability till now has really increased, and how the updation in the register is happening. And I think the interesting part that I want to talk about here is that a Kishori Swasth Manch held 6 months before and 6 months later, where they had a repeat testing of the same girls who are receiving the anemia tablets. The anemia levels have come down here. So we know VIFS is working, and if they take it in a dedicated manner, I'm sure we can make some kind of a headway in anemia reduction. The whole school health and wellness program, great program, but needed a mentoring and supportive supervision with kind of dialogue, with emphasizing on their roles. If you see this interesting picture, this is made by an HWA, this boy, this is on bad touch. So the red points are the bad touch and the green are the good touch. These are the kind of innovations which can happen actually on the ground when you really build capacities of those health and wellness ambassadors, when you get ownership from the principal, when you get ownership from the education, it can really work wonders. So there is the whole question box which Dr. Zoya is always emphasizing. The question box in our areas is used immensely, and honestly, the question from boys are so much more than girls, like the whole issue of growing up, why am I short, why my beard is not coming, why am I not attracted to a girl, is also something that they're talking about, So there is this sense of, all that gender diversity that we talk about. So this is again some data I think I'm already running. And this is on the PLA, so seen and heard. So we used to say seen and not heard for adolescents, but today we say seen and heard. And these are the three major issues that we kind of got girls and boys to, first time in their school, they were actually sitting together and writing on a chart paper. Otherwise, there are these benches for girls and the benches for boys. Twain shall not meet and never interact, right? And some of these great insights came that, they don't carry a lunch box to school. They come back only and have lunch. Gender violence, as you know, and menstrual hygiene, all of that is missing. And mental health, I want to definitely say that is a huge gap, and we are addressing it. So we went from a clinic-based approach to a very community-based approach. You can see these interesting pictures of the Satya Corner and the Kishori Swasth Manch. And we looked at mental health through making Telemanas number more visible, really making boys and girls call the Telemanas number, and also looking at the AHC and also strengthening the referral. So I think I'm already delayed. So I want to end saying nurturing the present and securing the future of these young adolescents. Thank you. Just an attempt.
Seema, I'm sure you had a lot more to say. Thank you for truncating it finally. And as I think one of the biggest takeaways from her presentation is that it is the simple interventions. What started out as an intervention for counseling of, training counselors for mental health of adolescents led to delving into the actual structure of the RKSK program and the school health program, and then making those critical interventions that were required to bring about a real dialogue, convergence, collaboration. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now, the last speaker is Mr. Keshav Sahni, Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Knowledge, Antara Foundation. I would invite you to speak on decoding barriers with data, designing community-led interventions for adolescents, mothers, and enablers. Thank you. We would be taking some questions towards the end. There would be time for questions, I hope, because I'm sure there are a lot of, at least one question from each speaker would be in order. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for Sukarya for having us here. Let me give a quick gist of what Antara does, right? So we support the health system in delivering care in rural areas to the most vulnerable folks. We have programs which work with community health workers, with nurses stationed at labor rooms, and the idea is how can we strengthen them and make them use data better, identify risk, and ensure that quality of care is improved, right? And towards the end of the slide, you can see that there are some decent outcomes that the program has also achieved. To give a quick gist of what the program looks like, so you can see the 3 health workers here, the ASHA, ANM and Anganwadi worker. We bring them on a common platform. They use a village map and use bindis on their forehead to identify and map risk on the village map. And while we got some good outcomes, I'd say there were 2 challenges that we as a program were facing, right? One was that the service coverage outcomes were sort of stagnating and not at an optimal or saturation level. The other was that some of the prevalence outcomes were not moving at all, right? And we also tried to understand whether this is only for our program, but if you would go ahead and see, this is NFH's last 3 iterations, and you would also see a similar pattern there, right? There are service coverage outcomes which have sort of moved leaps and bounds, which is a great thing, but there are some population prevalence outcomes linked more to health behaviors, what the community is thinking, looking and working on, which have sort of stagnated. And this sort of then becomes a chain, right? So if you see, again, this is the last NFHS iteration data, which says that it's 57. I think there is some, not 5G, but I think 56. I think there's a font issue there. Yeah. So I think it continues across the continuum of care, right? And a children is going to transfer into an adolescent age and then become a pregnant woman, so on and so forth. And I think that's where it becomes more challenging for a program to treat those cases. So very quick about our context and how we used data and where young adults came in and helped us as a program came. So right now we are operating in Madhya Pradesh, and these are the districts that we work with. We are in about 6,000 odd villages across 9 districts. And if you see, most of our intervention districts are in the classical tribal belt of Madhya Pradesh, right? They are home to Bhils, Gonds, Korku tribes. And these tribes are not just tribes, right? If you see on the screen that Gond has 40 recognized sub-tribes. So each of them have their own norms, their social cultural behaviors, which are slightly different from the other. So having purely a supply-driven program was not helping when we were trying to do that outreach. And the general types of barriers which are covered in seminal literature also are, there are marginalized population, influence of local healers, there's lack of awareness, migration, so on and so forth. What we wanted to do was to move away from anecdotes, right? So what we did was we broke these barriers down into 3 broad heads, some supply side barriers, community side barriers, and physical or access barriers. And rather than looking at anecdotes, we literally went to all of our villages, right? And we did a micro-analysis of all of those villages and developed a barrier grid, right? So this is a snapshot of the barrier grid. So if you would want to know in one of our villages, which of these barriers are more at play, which are less at play, we'll have that information. And this is our first point of interaction with young adults who really helped us out, our team, in developing this particular grid. Right, so this gave us data which we could then use to target a particular village or a cluster of village with some specific issues, right? So a village may have an access issue, a village may have, there is a local healer or a dai in a particular issue, and that sort of plays a big role in the health seeking behavior of that particular geography. And this shaped our broad community intervention. I think there are 3 arms of our community intervention. One is an extended PLA model, a mothers group model, but I'm going to talk about what we call the Badwani model, right? So Badwani is a district in southwest of MP, and a very interesting geography, because a village is not exactly a village in Badwani. It's a cluster of hamlets or faliyas, as it's called in the local language. A faliya typically houses about 150 to 250 population, and it's very difficult for the typical outreach programs or even our AAA platform to do that, door-to-door mapping or outreach things that we were doing, right? And if you see, the structure becomes more dispersed, and this requires a targeted innovation. And these faliyas are also a little different from their health-seeking behavior from one another. So if you can see on that image, so those are faliyas as part of the same village, and below is our village map, which shows some parts of the houses or clusters are across the river, right? So there is a physical barrier for them accessing particular care. You can also see that how dispersed particular villages are. These are some of the blocks that we were working with, and on an average there are 5 hamlets per village, which are spread across 2 to 3 kilometers from each other. Along with that, there are social and norms and practices which are different, and these are examples of some of the harmful practices, particularly to the Bhil tribe, that does not help in improved health-seeking behavior from them. Now, what happened in our last phase that I was speaking of when we did this micro-analysis was we identified young adults in each of these faliyas or hamlets who were then sort of brought in together with our classic AAA platform with the 3 frontline health workers, and they were sort of volunteers at a faliya level, right? So they work closely with the AAAs. They were given that micro data to sort of use and identify particular cases. They did mobilization at the faliya level. They acted as influencers as well, and they were key in identifying particular health and development issues that existed at a micro level. So this is an example of party block, and for those who know the context, Party and Sendwa notoriously have very high home delivery rates. They have since then come down a bit. And if you see, so this is a barrier analysis done specifically to party block, where we identified through them which are some of the areas that lead to, or some of the barriers that lead to higher home deliveries. And these are some of the faliya volunteers who are sort of doing that particular analysis. Now, once these gaps were identified, what the faliya volunteers did was they sort of understood what challenge is not letting institutional delivery happen, right? This could be behavioral, this could be access, and they solved for it, which was also part of an interactive module that was prepared for them to empower them to take decisions, right? And I think since they are available in the village, they have equity in the village, that really helped in the community also coming along. So these are some of the examples. Towards the right hand side of the screen, you would see a palanquin or a dolly that is prepared. I don't think that our video is going to play here, but the last point at which a 108 or an ambulance can reach sometimes is below a hill, and this team of faliya volunteers who are more savvy, even have smartphones, some of them, they would do that care coordination, right? So consider this akin to a case worker in a developed context who is sort of tagged to a particular woman or a particular child and ensuring that they get the best care possible. We sort of saw dramatic results in party block, where once this started happening, the trend of home deliveries came down. It stagnated a bit. It has come down since then. We'll update this with new data. But what is left is mostly due to some structural barriers that exist. The faliya volunteers are now called Warlu commandos. So Warlu in Bhil tribe means all is well or everything is fine, and they basically wave at each other by saying Warlu. And there is a lot of recognition for them and for their efforts within the system as well. For us as an organization, this taught us to change our program from AAA platform, what we saw earlier, to a CAAA platform, where now across our districts we are incorporating community and young adults into our program who adopt the bindis that you saw on the map, right? So they literally go and adopt a particular high-risk pregnant women or a child or an adolescent who is going through an issue, and ensure that they become the case worker as the particular case moves along. This also helped us extend our program from just health system strengthening to bringing components of convergence of supply and demand, community engagement, something which we are calling Project Anugami is a story for another day, where we are trying to bridge the care coordination gap between different nodes of the health system and introduce some tech-enabled solution. Boy, we realized the type of IEC we had did not resonate well with young adults, so we are making investments in changing that. Lastly, what did we learn and unlearn? One is health system strengthening interventions can only go so far. We will never be able to achieve optimal unless there is community buy-in. Second was, while anecdotal aggregate information on barriers and challenges that the community faces, I think there is a dearth of micro level data which is required, dare I say, at a village level for us to make smart decisions about care coordination. Third is one of our strongest belief that those closest to the program often have the best solutions, and we just need as an organization to empower them and catalyze support. And lastly, adolescents and young adults for us now offer the greatest opportunity to bridge that generational gap, as we are calling it, between communities and the public health system, while they themselves are now becoming more aware as the next generation about all of these issues. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Dr. Keshav, Mr. Keshav Sahni. I think very interesting insights from the Antara learnings from Madhya Pradesh. And I think the key was that the field level functionaries, the AAA intervention, is the key to bring in the grassroots people to find solutions which are already there. And of course, end of the day, it's the community and how you engage with it that matters. So thank you so much. I think with that, we've come to the end of this session. I think we would take about 5 to 10 minutes for the questions, or maybe 15 if people can wait for lunch. So the house is open for questions. Please mention your name, your organization, and who the question is addressed to. Yeah. Somebody with the mic, lady. There's a lady there in white. You raised your hand? Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Rekha Dikshit, and I write, I'm a science journalist with IIT Madras's science magazine Shastra. My question is to Ms. Bonita. Ma'am, those bracelets that you showed us, they were very interesting. Are these just a kind of reminder bracelet, or could they actually be used to, monitor the menstrual cycle or monitor? I mean, can you advance it into a higher level of, say, actually monitoring a cycle or monitoring dietary inputs or whatever with it? Like a chanting beat. So this is the date. This is it. You can have cutoffs every day or something like that.
This mic is not working, I think. Okay, thank you. So yes, they are a reminder tool, but they can also be used as a tracker. We do not really encourage it as tracking purpose, although it's better to understand the cycle, because on an average it's 28 days cycle, right? And every individual have different cycles. So we do customize based on user's need, but we do not encourage it as tracker, because sometimes it could be misused as tracking fertility, and that might be different case by case. So most of the time we encourage it to understand your own body and not technically use it as a tracker. Thank you.
There was a hand which was raised that side. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
My name is Shumitra Ghosh, and I'm a health and wellness worker. I have an observation, not really a question, particularly in response to Dr. Zoya's point. I'm happy to see this multi-sectority coming in when we are dealing with children and the adolescents. We are talking. How much we are working, that's a different issue altogether. NEP 2020 clearly talks about the holistic wellness, and it talks about all the 11 verticals that we are talking about. But when we look at the NCERT curriculum, the focus primarily is on the physical wellness and yoga in particular. The mental, emotional, social, all those aspects are not really being covered. Thanks to IP, and there are several organizations who are sort of going to the state departments and exposing them, and they're agreeing. They don't have the money, that's the typical response. And so therefore there are several such initiatives are being implemented. The point is, until it gets into the curriculum of NCERT, we are not talking about a scalable impact. Because ultimately the government schools, which are in lakhs and lakhs, if they are covering that, that will make a difference. And the moment government schools are doing that, then what happens? The private schools are forced to do that. Otherwise, the private school is not ready to pay or not doing it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would like to comment on your comment. Is the fact, I don't know if you're seeing my slide. So within the 11 themes of school health and wellness program, which as of now is implemented in government and government aided schools and private schools. So 2 of the themes, one of them is mental health and well-being, and emotional well-being and relationships, interpersonal relationships. So there are 2 dedicated themes which refer to the common mental health issues which the growing children in schools are facing. And like I mentioned in that yes, it is across 35 districts. We have trained 11.5 lakh teachers. This is besides we have trained almost 1 lakh teachers in private schools also. So we are also working with CBSE. So CBSE affiliated schools through NCERT. So this partnership is there because all training of teachers happens through the NCERT in coordination with health. So I'm happy to say this partnership is there, but if you're looking to see sudden changes happening in mental health, that is not going to happen. So what we have to begin by talking about mental health, about reaching to help for mental health and normalizing talking about mental health in schools. Once that happens, then we are looking for change in behavior, change in attitudes, and change in awareness per se. So I would say we need to be patient when you're looking at school-based interventions for growing children. But yes, point well taken. Thank you.
Any other question? Yeah, at the back there. And there was a gentleman here in the middle somewhere. There's a gentleman at the back.
Yeah, sorry. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Gautam. I'm professor in Safdarjung Hospital. First of all, I would like to thank all the panelists for such an insightful presentation. Well, my question is to Dr. Ashok Dayalchand. You mentioned a figure of 75% women getting married before the age of 18 years. But the NFHS data says otherwise. That is number one. Number two is you carried out a project in Maharashtra. Ashas are basically involved in number of health programs. Did you try to find out the effect on, did you try to find out the performance of Ashas during the implementation of your project? Was it, same in the other programs, or it was basically affected?
I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so when you talk about percentage of girls getting married before 18 years of age, I think you'll have to keep 2 things in mind. One, that this data was, the baseline data was collected in 2016. The end line was done in 2019. And I wouldn't even dare to present to you the data from 20 to 24 because it was absolutely damaged. I would use the word damaged because of the COVID pandemic. At that point of time, that was, I don't know which NFHS data you're talking about, but at that point of time, that was the percentage of girls, young women, who got married before 18 years of age. The second thing that you talked about was, did the Ashas, how was the performance of the Ashas affected? The Ashas were filling up 16 registers with static information being repeated 16 times. Name of the woman, name of the husband, household number, village, name of the village, etc., etc. We changed that, sir. We changed it to 1 register with static information and every other page for dynamic information, which was basically her health needs being assessed every month. Now, that has been now converted into a digital app by by our organization. There is no writing work left. The Ashas are absolutely happy to do this because they, their union said this is not increasing their work, this has in fact reduced their work substantially. So, is it affecting their work with the government? Why would it do that? Because we are actually implementing the government program. I hope I have answered your question.
No, see, well, whenever a project is implemented in any part of the country, what happens is, the focus is more on that project. And the routine activities basically take the back seat, right? So, were routine activities, they were suffered or not? This is what my question is.
Sir, we were trying to rectify the routine activities, make it more effective.
I think one thing we need to clarify that this, whittling down of information which is being taken repeatedly in a manual form has been already done in the Women and Child Department. There was an application software that was introduced way back in 2017-18, and it was all digitally to be entered by the Anganwadi workers. The similar kind of work which the Ashas were doing from this household was being done by Anganwadis from that household. So, it's a no-brainer actually. I think what they did was something that needs to be done, and I think could be scaled up across the country. And routine work it was drudgery. It is not routine work, it is drudgery, filling out the same information in 16 formats. So I think you need to go and see in the field how these things pan out. They actually free up time of these workers for doing the actual work that they're supposed to do. And I think that's what their program implementation was about. We'll move on to the next question.
Thank you.
Hello. This side, Professor Virendra Balaji Sahare, Department of Social Work, Jamia University. My questions goes to Dr. Vandana Prasad and Joya Ali Rijvi and other panel also. I thanks to all presenters who really enlightened us. I will ask directly the questions regarding how you are addressing the issues regarding the multi-sectionalities as far as this action and participatory approach is concerned, where we have seen, multiple this lack of participation and the involvement, particularly the downtrodden and the vulnerable groups. Even in the ASHA workers, there is a specific, the mindset among the groups. And so how these multi-sectional issues you are addressing in the larger context?
Would you like to take that, Vandana?
Yeah, I think that's really an excellent question, and it's a very tough problem at ground level. I mean, there are caste differentials, there are class differentials, there are all kinds of cultural issues, religious differentials. And it's not easy. I mean, like the whole business of participatory learning and action as a process, much easier to talk about and theorize than it is to actually put into practice. I think the only key thing that I'll say to you is that we have not made a beginning in our system, and we need to at least start with it. I think that if the teams are kind of able to identify who are the most marginalized and worst off and try to make an effort to first identify and then to pull them into the process first, that is something that at least we try and direct. So there is a mapping that's involved, needed, and you have to start there, but starting there is also the most difficult. Sometimes I argue that it's the second last mile that we should start with, because that makes getting to the last mile much easier rather than directly going to the last mile. I mean, that's sometimes it's an argument, it's not a resolved answer. The other thing I want to say is that we're not blank pages. We carry some perspectives ourselves, and it's very important to know that. It's very important also to place them on the table when we are participating with communities. So it's not that whatever community says is also okay, and we are not coming with some agenda or some understanding. I just want to give you one example. For example, in the creches that we run, the creche worker is, they're shortlisted by the community, and then we choose them together, because there are some skill sets that are needed, but the community also has to play a role in shortlisting in the first stage. Once it happened in a village that they shortlisted a particular creche worker, she was very good, and she engaged as a creche worker, she worked. She changed her religion, the community wanted to throw her out. The creche committee runs the service, they wanted to throw her out. We said, this we cannot agree, we will not agree to it. We might, if you say so, we will shut the creche in your village because it's your choice, but we will not allow on the basis of caste or on the basis of religion to throw out somebody who is doing a good job and you chose her. So that we will not do, really sorry, but that's where the participation has a limit to it. So I think it's an ongoing conversation and negotiation that happens. There are no real answers sitting in a hall. There are compromises that are made also at every stage, and we are not getting it perfectly right. So it's a combination of top-down and bottom-up that we currently have with us. And we move, at least we know the path we're moving in, which is to at least acknowledge that there are people still getting left out of any participatory process. I think that's the beginning. So that's all that one can try and do. But I think the question is very valid, and there's no homogeneous community, sir, as you know. And there are many, many differentials which are very difficult. It's very complicated, very complex. But community only will find the way also, no, with us as supporting.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Neeraj Sharma. I'm from Evidence Action, Madhya Pradesh. So my question from Seema Gupta and Keshav Sahni, sir. So thank you so much for the well presentation, and question from Seema Gupta. How can we digitally help to be leveraged to track the IFA consumptions, especially for the government and private schools?
Very difficult question. So, so currently, what is being reported in the health management information system in terms of the weekly iron folic acid is just the number of tablets which are being distributed, number of boys who have received it, number of girls who have received it. I think, so because we piloted this in a particular, in particular districts and rather in certain blocks, what we did was, because from the beginning of raising a demand to having an inventory to distribution to consumption to reporting. So, there are these layers to really streamlining the WIFS program. At every stage, so there are these reporting formats already in the WIFS register, which of course, teachers have not been trained how to fill it up and then goes back and kind of puts it. I think what the challenge was of the principals and the schools receiving it, raising the inventory and having. So we just made very simple Google forms. We realized what is the level of, in the sense of it can't be complicated, right? So this was just made a Google form in which the school would enter the number of enrolled boys and girls and raise the inventory for 3 months. And this used to be then given a copy to the block resource center and to the chief medical, to the medical officer in charge in the CHC. So both have copies, they would have that stock and eventually, but I think we have a lot to work in terms of the reporting to make it a little more comprehensive when it comes to the WIFS program at large. But for us, this was what worked on the ground.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Question for the Keshav Sahni.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, especially this great dialogue and this great exchange of questions. I'm hoping more questions can be asked over lunch and the conversation can continue. Thank you so much for your understanding. And thank you to our speakers and to Chair Ms. Roli Singh for insightful reflections. Please, a round of applause.
I thought I had to make closing remarks, but some decisions are taken for you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me over, and I think it was a very fruitful and a very enlightening conversation. So much to learn from the people sitting here and as well as people who are participating. I think hats off to people who work on the ground, the foot soldiers out there who are assisting government in so many, tacit, silent and even vocal ways in helping us achieve the objectives that we've set out for ourselves, especially the SDGs, and also tackling real-time social issues which were not so easy to tackle. Thank you so much, everybody in this room. Thank you for having me.
May I ask Ms. Meera Satpathy to come on stage and take a group photo with our Session 1 panelists and to also hand out souvenirs of appreciation. So now some tokens of appreciation for Dr. Zoya Ali Rizvi. Dr. Vandana Prasad. Dr. Francisca Agung. Dr. Ashok Dyalchand. Miss Bonita Sharma. And Mr. Keshav Sahani. Miss Seema Gupta. And last but not least, Miss Roli Singh. Thank you to our panelists and Ms. Mira. Now, I invite you all to take these rich ideas with you as you enjoy a wonderful lunch. Please return by 2:10 as we dive into the next big theme, gender and rights in adolescence. Have a great lunch break, everyone.